the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that they came up with just for reference for you as we go through today. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the focus areas that you all identified, all the priorities that you all listed in the homework that Erica sent you. I took and kind of, a lot of them were the same, so the wording might have been different, but they're the same concepts. So I kind of pieced them together. You'll see those later. We're going to look at those and try to come up with the very high-level strategic directions for the city of Weaverville for the future. And this is by developing a strategic plan. This is the document that we'll be able to use to measure our own success, for us to use in making decisions about strategic directions, for our staff to know where they should be putting their attention, what they should be working for. This is the thing that can carry us through the next 5 years or so. So really try and concentrate today on those things that are important for how we build the Weaverville of the future. Not today, not where we should put a speed bump or where we should put another sign or flashing lights, but rather what do we want Weaverville to look like in 5 years and beyond, and what do we need to do now to make that happen? Let me give you an example of a strategic direction that probably only Doug remembers here, but years ago when the first apartment complex came to Weaverville, council looked at this demographic sheet that James prepares for us every year, and we saw that the average age in Weaverville had gone up every year for 8 years in a row, 47, 49, 51, 54. And we said, this is a problem. The town's getting older and older. So first of all, that's really high. That's a high average age. Compare that to Asheville, which is like 37. So we said, if we don't do something to attract younger families to town, we're going to be a town full of old, decrepit people. And that brings us on. And here we are. And so that brings its own a bunch of social problems and community problems if the town continues to age like that. So we welcome the first apartment complex. Yeah, it's going to bring young families. And we know that we look at current data. We don't know. I can't tell you. We know we brought the average age down, but I suspect we did. We still have the census data to prove that yet. But what was surprising to me, if you looked in the STR report that the Land of Sky recently did for us, even though we probably brought the average age down, which was the strategic direction, the number of citizens below the age of 18, kids, actually dropped 3 percentage points in the last 5 years. So how did that happen? We're attracting young professionals, young childless professionals. So did we meet the goal? Halfway at least. Or maybe the goal wasn't the correct one. But anyway, that gives you an idea of a strategic direction and how it turned out. I also would say that we're one of the focus areas you can see that got a lot of attention was the need to bring more medical facilities and doctors and whatnot into the community. And being an aging community as we are, that's obviously an important thing because we have a real dearth of those kinds of resources. Now we know that we may have solved that problem already, but if that problem is solved, what opportunities are there that we should be looking at as well? If we have the facilities we think we're going to get, then that becomes its own economic development zone. How do we maximize that? How do we make sure that what gets developed around that is what's best for Weaverville's future? I think this could be a very important thing as we go forward. So the process today is we're going to, it's going to be open discussion. We want no ideas too crazy. We want to talk about what we think is important, try and rank what of the focus areas that you all have identified are the most important and where we have the most agreement. And then we're going to give all this information to Selena and the staff and ask them to put it to paper, and then come back to us later and we can tweak it to get it to be a very usable document for our future. Any questions on the process? Great. Erica?
Yes, I'm going to start us out on page 2 in the packet. Provide you a very brief overview of the last strategic plan that we did in 2018. That was a 3-year strategic plan, and you'll see as we move through this that we have accomplished many of the goals. Some of the goals are continued goals, but we have gone through a good many of these to completion. So we'll start on page 1 with goal. The goal was to provide town services to meet the needs of the community. And then you see A, B, and C there, as well as D on the next page, page 3. So those objectives, the first one, of course, is to develop a consensus on water and annexation growth and policies that are consistent with that consensus. To the right of that, you of course see the status. This consensus has been reached in the first year of the strategic plan in 2018 and then again in 2019. We've also talked about it recently. So the next one, B, is re-examine Asheville redefines transit, which is Asheville's transit system. Unfortunately, COVID stopped a lot of the conversation in this regard, and we can pick that up if it's town council's direction to continue down that path. Continue the town's outreach to educate the public. We have continued to implement a number of new programs. We continually try to find new ways to communicate with the community. Then also Citizens Academy that the mayor referenced earlier. I do want to call attention to one young man, especially all 3 young men in the audience have attended Citizens Academy, but David Dobbins is with us, and he is 17, and I think that's especially important given the comments that the mayor just made about youth. David is very interested in local government and in our town government, and he is a native, unlike many folks.
Thanks for bringing the average age down, David.
So we're really glad that he got up on a Saturday morning and came down to join us, and also Al and Russ, thank you all for being here as well. Going then, I'm just going to go through here. We can certainly stop and talk about any of these that you would like. The next objective was recognize the needs of each town department in serving an ever-changing and growing population. These issues are addressed typically in the adoption of budgets, but are ongoing. Goal 2 was to improve regional collaboration, with the first of those to be strengthening the relationship with the Asheville-Buncombe Economic Development Coalition. The next to recognize water as a regional resource. The next, obviously, I'm not going to just go through and read all these, but to have consistent involvement with functional areas that are in our region, for instance, Woodfin's Police Department, the various fire departments that we have. So our focus is there. And then finally, the objective on page 4 was to distribute information regarding regional programs. And so we try to continue to do those through our communications tools. Goal 3 was to maximize the benefit to the town in land use planning efforts. This is a major one. And as you'll see there, A, B, and C, there's only 3 of them, but they're huge in that we have developed and have implemented, continue to adjust the comprehensive land use plan, and so that document and it's not a document really, it's more of a dynamic process that has continued to serve us well. So you see the objectives there, and James is going to speak next about the growth areas specifically. Goal number 4 on page 5 is to promote a successful downtown. We have, again, done several things in the way of promoting downtown within the planning zoning area, and also the Weaverville Economic Development Advisory Committee. Some additional mixed-use development regulations, and then finally, this was developed in 2019, and we still have folks that use it, the walkability map that we developed in 2019. Moving to the following page, page 6, looking at E, researching grant opportunities for the town. This is a list of the grants that we received during the 2018 through 2021 time period. The first let's see, five bullets. And then the very last one is just to remind us all of the most recent grants that we've received, although they were outside of that strategic plan timeline. And then F, to act as a liaison between downtown churches and businesses to identify parking. Again, we've done that, completed that, and had a lot of really good conversations with the churches downtown to come up with 45 additional parking spaces for business employees. And then finally, the last goal that we had with the last plan was to increase legislative outreach, with A being to engage the legislative representative regarding the town's needs. We did that very specifically with the water treatment plant expansion. So that we have not hosted meetings, though, A1 there. We have not hosted meetings with legislative representatives as we had set out to do. But again, it's certainly something we can move forward to the next plan if council wishes to do so. And then finally, consider opportunities for potential special legislation. This is, if you look at the 4 bullets there, we have tried, we have considered, we have discussed, we've done everything except make it happen, and largely due to legislation that it would take for us to move forward with regard to that process. Erica, that is my review, unless there are questions from council. Again, quick review, but I felt it was important to remind everyone that we did have these goals set out and did a good job achieving most of them. Excellent.
Good deal. Good deal. James is going to give us an overview of our growth areas, and you might want to give a little history, because some folks may not know what growth areas are.
I have to go as deep as everyone would like. But in the months leading up to December 2022, the original resolution on development and growth areas was adopted. It was a recognition of sort of the unique dance that we have here, given that the town lost its ETJ in 2014, which is water allocation, initial zoning, and voluntary annexation. The amount of growth that we were experiencing, there was a need or a want to identify what kind of development we were likely to experience in certain areas, in large part based upon the infrastructure that was present in those areas. And so again, in the months leading up to December 2022, there was an analysis done on areas around town, the type of development that we were likely to experience at one time, the type of development the town council wanted to experience in those areas. So we identified 5 areas, which is the Gill Branch Valley, which is just south. It's largely been absorbed by the Northridge Farm. Sort of clockwise around. We have Monticello Road. Area where it's all of the infrastructure, large part with the so again, common points 1 and 2. Density. Belong to solid road. That's where the new water line is. Public sewer. So the density of development likely to experience. Move along to 6 corridor north. What's unique about this area is the east side of the interstate has public sewer, while the west side at this time description is not good enough. On page 12 of your packet, you have the future land use map with growth areas that identifies those areas 1 through 5. And so again, going back to how we kind of arrived at these positions, it's see the areas of town. What type of growth is likely to occur. So, any questions?
Questions?
East doesn't have, but where does it, would the 75 coal that already close availability?
Cole Road is a good, so visiting yet again, was adopted in December, was updated again in October 3. I would say a very important factor in which 75 require the system punched through the lack of to the west side of the interstate, at which point we may need to redefine the type of development. Public sewer,
And we know from our meeting last month, the MSD has made a commitment to double their pumping capacity in Weaverville, and also I know that 12275 is part of their plans as well, despite what's in Coal happening. So that means that development has become more increasingly likely to happen in that area.
When did you say that new pumping station? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Do you remember, Selena?
I think it's about a year and a half.
I think it seems like it was less than 2 years.
Okay.
James, question.
Yes, sir.
On the west side of Interstate 26 Coal Road, the sewer situation different as far as geographical, topographical.
See if I can stick to it. Absolute expert for sewer system, but generally speaking, Flat Creek, we are literally going downstream from, I don't know where the pumping station are. Who really knows how it would link up in that area, but again, we do know that there are some efforts, as reported by former councilman Dirk, by MSD to double the capacity of the 2 pump stations in North Buffalo County that serve the Weaverville area, 2 handle areas that are largely west of I-26. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I'll also rather say I don't know.
Thanks, James. Slido.com. Slido, S-L. It's going to ask you for a code. So we go up to the QR codes here. And the code number is 2723447.
So if these are the words of the word. Miles of sidewalk. 6 miles of sidewalk.
We regularly put that out there, and especially when we're looking for folks to fill our boards and committees, we continue to have some trouble with filling those. We'll be discussing the tree board at this upcoming agenda, and so we'll be asking that I think some of you have shared with me that you know folks that might be interested in serving on that. So I think it's really important that you continue talking to people and letting them know that we have committees that we would love to have them participate on. And for instance, right now we don't have any openings in any of our committees, but we regularly have some turnover. So to the bottom line, to answer your question, would be I wouldn't say that we're overwhelmed with applications on a regular basis. We don't have people just lining up to serve. I think we have one application right now for the ABC board. That's the only one, I believe, that we have on file, unless Jennifer can think of any others. I could probably only speak to it anecdotally. I don't know, other than, for one thing, when we don't have committees where there's openings, then obviously they're not spots for folks to fill. But the other thing is frankly, we only have a few committees. We really don't have that many committees. One of the ideas in the future that I would like to for town council to consider is making our current ad hoc recreation committee a full-time committee. Because as we grow and have recreation opportunities, I think it would be a viable committee and a helpful committee to have. So things like that, adding committees for the various projects as we grow, I think would be really helpful, and we can push that in a more focused campaign to try to get people to participate. But a lot of it too, a lot of it too is us continuing, staff continuing to make sure that folks know that the committees are there. And even though there may not be openings now, go ahead and submit your application, because there will be an opening at some point. And so we've got to do a good job of continuing to let the community know.
If I could just add, I think that's the key, that people don't just go and apply, even though it's available. But when there's a position open, all of a sudden you get interest. For example, the last planning board vacancy we had, 4 people applied for one position. That was a new development for us, and that was great. It's also interesting to point out that the Citizens Academy has produced a number of people who are interested. So I think all of our new elected officials are all Academy graduates, and I think every person we put on the board or committee in the past couple of years has also been Academy graduates. So that thing really generates interested people.
Just to add on to what Catherine said. There's a large group. That's important.
That's a good idea. We can do that with this Citizens Academy. One thing that we do now is I do warn the groups that we could twist their arm and bring them in on a committee at some point, but that's part of it. Peter remembers me doing this probably. But I do tell them that we use the Citizens Academy as a somewhat of, an incubator. And so we do talk about it and talk about continuing to have the new folks engaged. And so I was really encouraged, as Michelle was sharing, was really encouraged that these are all new folks this time. It's very, very encouraging to see, folks that have been here 1 to 3 years. Over half of the group are new.
I think one of the things that I see, I do a lot of word of mouth type advertising for Citizens Academy. I got a phone call from a gentleman that I knocked on his door when I was canvassing for the election that wanted to be on the ADC board. So that's where the communication came. So anything we can do to enhance the communication and make it easier for the residents and whoever to find what the opportunities are might be helpful. I think some people just don't know that there's something to do.
Other questions? What happened to the stuff? They're still after that.
What we did in that case is that me and Bob Hayes, the planning board chair, actually interviewed all four of them. And Bob made a recommendation. We still have their paperwork, so they're still in the hopper, I guess.
Well, as an example, I had to apply, volunteer to be on the planning board twice before Al Root interviewed me. And then once he interviewed me and appointed me, I stayed on for 9 years. Then, here I am.
It's fun too. A lot of folks really enjoy it. We have tremendous support for our citizens.
What if, as a way to get some change in the population, somebody years, it's time to some ways to from within create some and get them involved.
So they do have there's terms, if you will. So sometimes it's, and I forget exactly what
It's
term
3
applies,
years.
3 years, I think. And so then the 3 years, they're eligible to be renewed one time, is that correct, Jennifer?
All about, there's a lot on kind of recreation. And I know this from some of the work that we do, that's a big focus area for you all with the Greenway Connection to Woodfin. That's kicking off that study. All the greenways you've already put in. Lake Louise is a whole new, beautiful park community center. What do you see as some more opportunities you can leverage or where you want to expand? I've seen that come up quite a bit. Do you want more sidewalks, greenways, nature trails, like
Yes, yes,
all,
All those things.
all those things? Okay. And you have ad hoc recreation committee, but potentially a full-time.
And if I may just expand on that a little bit, we are in the process right now. We've received the final report on Public Code Watershed Trail System. We've received the report on that. And the company is going to know several, I guess it's one parcel of land that the town owns for another trail system. So we're looking at that. We're looking at, there's quite a few, as you know, there's quite a few grants for trails right now.
Yes.
So we're going to focus on those and actually going to bring those to town council together, this final reports, bring them to you together as soon as the second one is done. And so that is a big one for us right now, is potential for trail systems, both in town and then going out of code, out of town. So there's
Thank you for doing that. So with where Selena went through your strategic plan and progress made to date, these are the 5 goals that were in that plan. So I just wanted to refresh your memory on this. It's also printed out if you'd like to look back. But as we move into identifying strategies, this is the overarching goals that we'll be looking at to develop strategies to meet these. Right, so strategy, for those that maybe aren't as familiar, I know I get all the terms are hard for me to grapple with sometimes. Strategy is really looking at a roadmap that defines how you're going to achieve a goal. So it's measurable, it's achievable, it's specific. Sometimes they're called SMART. So you really want to develop strategies that connect into a goal and help you move further down the trail toward that end goalpost. So as we look at developing strategies, we'll try to keep that in mind. And then we'll also be taking notes on action items, because action items are things that are even more measurable and specific to achieve strategies. So as much as as we're brainstorming today, as we're throwing out ideas for strategies, if some are more in the action item, we'll put those, collect that information too on a piece of paper, and then at the end of this, Selena will take this back, and town staff will organize strategies and action items and then come back to you all. So I went through the results of these questionnaires that Mayor and Selena sent out to you all, and these are the overarching buckets. You can't read that at all. I'm sorry.
Blow it up a little.
Let's see if we can. I'll read through this, and we're going to write things down on the paper as well, so we'll have multiple ways of looking at it. So I organized this into 5 main buckets. The mayor also organized this on your handout here, and it's very similar. There's a lot of overlap. So I looked at what folks said about recreation and strategies, and people mentioned greenways, trails, parks. Another is relationships with towns, county, league of municipalities. Another is development. So I put in that bucket annexation, land use, housing, healthcare, and staffing. Infrastructure is a big bucket, and that's your water expansion, sewer, broadband, traffic was mentioned, transit, so the bus system with Asheville, and additional sidewalks. And then in the business bucket, we have quite a few folks mentioned downtown, whether it's supporting downtown, promoting more partnerships with downtown businesses, safety for events and other things, promotion of businesses, and then parking. So that's just a starting point, and some of these could share buckets. They could be moved from one to another pretty easily. So we'll walk through that. But I think our next step is I'm going to kind of take down strategies, and then we're going to vote on which ones you feel are most prioritized for the community. So I have stickers, and we'll revisit grade school. But that's our next couple steps.
And I think at this point, Mayor, unless you're with an idea, I think at this point, this should be council. All through our vision, for the ones to give us the direction.
All right. I am sorry. I am right in front of you. All right. So some of the priority areas. And would you all prefer that I go, how deep, detail oriented do you want to go? Do you want to stay in the big kind of overarching categories? Okay. All right. So I'm going to put recreation. Let me see. Are these buckets reflective of your answer, these major categories, recreation, relationships, development, infrastructure, business, or do you want to add any to those? Do we need a little bit more detail to help you prioritize where you want to go? In their homework. Thank you, everybody, for doing that. Is there anything you want to add to those?
Where would communication fall? Because we keep seeing that come up, that people don't know what we're doing. They don't come to meetings, or they're not on Zoom, and we do publish it at lots of places. If they still don't know what we're doing,
It could. It could. It could be its own thing. That's one that kind of bridges all of them. So maybe its own bucket. What do you all think? What's your preference? All right. We'll put its own frame. I'm going to do a couple per. Oh, golly. Well, that was just unsuccessful all the way around. All right. I'm going to put development on this one. I'm going to give you one of these. I know.
Stick together.
Just to make sure, 3 green, 2 yellow, 1 red.
Just see if it's not.
They're all important.
The red is scary.
That's totally okay.
Test 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'll keep talking. Test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I have that. There you go. I didn't bring Scotch tape. That would have been a good.
Well, I'm sure somebody's got some.
We might just need to get some new stickers. It sounds like so the red and the yellow. Oh yeah, look at
So
that.
we need an office depot.
Okay, we'll just. Sounds like we have a sticker problem in our office. I think the highlighters are coming in handy. Thank you, Selena.
Sure.
Thank
Don't have
you.
dots.
So, I'll take them back. We're done for now. We'll see if folks want to. You can use one more yellow if you don't ruin it. Thank you. Thank you. I think we'll just sort those right into the. Thank you. Good. Fantastic. Yeah, that is good. Walk right. Okay. Will do. Is he still is he going to come? Well, thank you, everybody. Has everyone voted? We'll give folks some time. folks ready to? And we have a few folks taking a break.
All the council folks. are
Council
here.
folks are here.
Yeah.
All right.
And I just want to remind folks that, we're recording this thing, so when you speak, if you speak into your microphone, that you get recorded.
Apparently, I'm a quiet talker, so I got upgraded. So it looks like development has the most green dots, followed closely by infrastructure, recreation, relationships, business, and communication. All right. So what I'd like to do is go through each of those and dig a little deeper. So on the development side, what are some of the strategies that you want to see? So we had folks had listed out annexation, a proactive approach or a consistent approach to annexing. I'm assuming this is for water or I also saw in there pursuit of a bill to recreate your ETJ. So I'm not sure which of those two folks are thinking of, if it's a voluntary annexation.
So we
or-
have actually both. I think the chances of us getting the ETJ reestablished is pretty slim in the current
I would agree with you.
environment in Raleigh. But we've got folks who are having developments that want to come to town, and we use water as a tool to encourage them to seek annexation. And then we also have people who are actually voluntarily asking for annexation as well.
If extension of the sewer, do you mean for annexation or just in general? For MSD extension of sewer? In general? I believe, James, correct me if I'm wrong, but is, because MSD provides sewer, is that a trigger for voluntary annexation for folks if they need sewer? It's only water, correct? Okay. Do you think the growth areas are a way to help have that conversation? If folks are coming to you within those growth areas, then that might change or help guide your decision-making for annexation?
So I think the growth areas idea was very smart, and we identified what types of development we like happening and what types of development we want to happen there. So I think that really gave us a sense of where growth was going to like it happen, as well as for staff. I think that might need to be revised since things have happened. MSD is expanding. They're going to expand under the interstate probably. Those things may necessitate some changes for revisiting of those definitions. But that process in itself, I think, is a very positive thing.
It could be.
Right.
It could be. And so that's where this next step will help, because I think what we'll do is, now that we have these big categories, we can flesh out what exactly folks want to see happen under development. So I'm going to ask you to vote again. if we can put kind of annexation on the side for a minute and talk about land use, because that may be more of what will help guide that decision-making process. But when folks were talking about land uses, what were you wanting to see? Or what do you want to kind of focus on as a strategy? Zoning? Your land use plan?
Are we going to put tier or single? Change our.
Are you, are you thinking that your land use discussion is really about housing options? Or is it broader than that too? So looking at different types of development or mixed use or where different types of housing can go?
I think that's at the top of it. I think that's it.
Okay.
There's not a lot of industrial opportunity here.
For economic development.
Not a lot of space for commercial either, right?
Sounds like it's all bigger than just housing then. It's kind of all uses and identifying opportunities for economic development as well as housing, commercial space. Both from an access issue as well as an economic development issue.
Right, we have small doctor's offices that are open. And chest cold, you have chest pains, you might be emergency.
But I think that if we did have a large medical facility come to town, then the areas around that facility would become a development zone. Right, because that's going to attract other types of related businesses. So I think that's important. How do we prepare for that? Because that will require revisiting some of those areas, incentives.
Okay. I do. I'm
So multifamily housing. That's what we're getting at.
And to extend on that, multifamily housing and apartment complexes, one of the concerns that's going to come up over and over is conservation of green space. There's a lot of concrete with asphalt on the parking area. Go along with that. Stormwater problems, raising our natural resources.
And another thing that we've talked about in planning, I think, is the more apartment complexes you get, that means and James can give me better words here, but the housing stock we're becoming more apartment heavy than we are housing heavy, and that changes the character of a town because you have more transient people and then the citizens of the town are sometimes concerned that people who live in apartments, because they're only here for a short period of time, don't have a sense of community. So it goes back to it creates this paradigm shift that we've not seen before.
Or the other thing you have is people that can't afford to live in Asheville, but work for in Weaverville, but they work here, but they have to live north of town and commute in. So because of the cost of housing.
What happens in every town? I mean, Myrtle Beach, everybody transitions from Lawrence or Conway.
Well, yeah, it happens in DC where people commute from Charlottesville to DC. So, but it's an issue. So,
Right.
because of the workforce gets limited, they're likely to move and never see them again.
Well, our luxury apartments are not workforce housing.
But what, I think what D is seeing, what it forces people who are at the lower income brackets have to drive the furthest to come to work. They can't go to live in town.
Not everybody wants to live.
Question. Is the, if I recall correctly, the permit trend, permits have been steady or a little less, but units are. So,
That was the first single-family home major subdivision we have had since 2017. Almost everything in the interim was multifamily in nature.
One of the things really was
I'm going to pull housing as its own category because I think there's so many things wrapped up in that. So I think as housing relates to land, it's always going to relate to land use. But I think it's bigger than the land use piece. Other development areas, so we did have healthcare, and staffing was the other. Were there any others that people wanted to add now?
So I think on staffing, if I remember all the votes came in, there was a concern by several council members that we need to have someone or some capacity to do long-range city planning. Right now, our planning staff is pretty limited to one, and he's probably pretty buried and not able to spend much time on those particular tasks that council thinks is important.
If I may add, just as a reminder, town council recent, last couple of months, approved the position. James and I have purposely held tight on that position to have this conversation.
Anything else we want to add to this list under development? Words never look quite right when you spell them on a thing. Infrastructure is next. So under this category, we have water, we have a major grant for your water treatment plant, so congratulations, that's fantastic. Are there other things with water that you want to have on the board? Do you feel like that's checked off the list, or do you want to keep it on the list?
Well, one of the things that I told the mayor and Selena that I wanted to talk about a little bit, I told them this a couple of months ago, is with the water, knowing that we were going to have more capacity come on board sometime in the next 3 to 4 years, I was kind of hoping that we might agree to conserve some of that in the hopes of a future healthcare facility. Because if you don't conserve it, then we will continue to grow and voluntarily annex and have 100 apartment complexes that goes all through I-26 and Rims Creek until you get to the Parkway and Marsville. Because people will keep coming here. They're not going to stop coming here.
And I think even though we can kind of check that off as accomplished, I think that what we're likely to see in the coming years is as Mars Hill and Marshall, who are also experiencing development, they're going to want us to provide
They're going to ask
more
us.
water. That's right.
They're going to ask us for water. Well, we know for a fact that Mars Hill, well, I don't know if everybody in the room knows this or not, but Mars Hill recently turned down a development by Gibbons Estates, which would have been a wonderful opportunity to have a retirement facility, and they had to turn them down in fear that they did not have enough water to supply that. So if we already had our water online, they would have probably come to us and asked us for water to help supply them so that they could have a very nice retirement home, which I would have loved to have retired in.
I'll keep it on the list. That sounds like. Sewer. Sounds like that's in discussion with MSD, that's ongoing, and looking at where their expansions are. So we'll keep that. Broadband? How's the town feeling with broadband connections?
In town, we're in pretty good shape. Once you get out of town, less so.
Okay. Someone had mentioned broadband connection at your community center, or one of the community centers. Is it? Okay.
It is. And we've talked to them, through Verizon, also, so.
Yes, because we have the public Wi-Fi, and I've noticed that if I'm sitting near the door of a business, I get good signal, but if I'm sitting away from the door, not so much.
And what doesn't work is when we're doing presentations and there's something that's on and then it's off. Yeah, it's just
So
not reliable. I don't know if that piece, I don't know how to fix that, but it's just noticeable.
Put it on the list to address it.
Our free Wi-Fi should work outside. It's not supposed to work in the building.
Correct.
So, just so you know. Well, I'm just saying, Roger's checked it multiple times. Every time we go for walks, he checks it, and it works outside, which is where it's supposed to work. But his complaint would be, we don't have high-speed broadband internet. I mean, none of our town does. You know, our citizens are, well, we don't have true, well, that's the definition. You know, high-speed broadband, there's all kinds, but we don't have fiber.
But if I'm mistaken, you can probably correct access, but I can't. Frontier got a deal to install that, correct?
In the country,
In the county?
in the country, in the places that don't have.
And that's where we really need it. I mean, we have Wi-Fi here on the streets, it's free, and it may not be super fast, but we have it, but, you know, for folks that are out in the rural areas, I think that's where our next focus is.
Right, and that's where the commissioners have gotten the,
Right.
that's where it's coming. But
Yeah.
I'm
we
getting
don't.
solicitations from Google to run fiber to my house.
You have what?
I'm getting solicitations from Google to run Google fiber to my house.
Really?
$400 a month.
Oh,
100.
That's interesting. I'll,
There's no real good termination equipment that's affordable, that you can take that much bandwidth and throttle it down to where it's useful.
yeah.
But if there's something I can do to help on that area, I did a lot of work with internet activity and access and all that kind of stuff. So
Community center.
it's all.
Yeah, ding, ding, you know, there's a resume.
Just to add to the conversation, Buncombe County is my understanding, Buncombe County is focusing on the Moons Creek area to improve service out there as one of their projects in the larger improvement projects.
And I think even Barnard's
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's some of the application for the CAP
Yes.
funding. And there's some more, I was at a broadband presentation yesterday, and there's additional funding coming out. There's some legislation that they're considering to waive the matching requirement for CAB funding, which would be huge benefit, because then the money that Buncombe and other counties are putting toward those grants can be used to do more work in Buncombe. So we'll keep that on there. And I know while we're making progress in connecting folks with broadband, we don't have that high speed, that gig fiber, that allows a lot of certain professional folks, someone explained to me, if they're a wedding photographer or videographer, they can't upload and download their photos or their videos to their clients from their office or their house. They have to drive into a certain area where they have higher speed to do that. So it's even it doesn't allow people to run their business or do their business as they like. So it's always a priority. Absolutely.
My understanding of the sewer, especially the expansion growth areas for the that would help.
Absolutely. Just a question, is MSD extending sewer without development leading it, or are they going to the development as it's proposed? That's what I think that's their, I don't think they usually expand sewer without having something in place to run to. Okay. All right, traffic. It looked like that was trying to slow, like traffic calming, slow speeds through town. Is that correct? Safer pedestrian connections, perhaps?
Traffic comes up as an obvious nexus between traffic and development, actually.
Oh.
Greens Creek in particular. Probably the most common complaint I hear. That road can't support it. So development goes on down there. Yeah, trying to get better.
Sullivan Road.
Okay. Okay.
And so, see, we're kind of like town hall, North Buncombe, so there's a lot of traffic on Main Street where we're, but honestly, town's full, because everybody coming into town to go shopping, to go to dinner,
Okay.
traffic is
And it's
Okay.
not just traffic. People who live in town are beginning to say traffic and traffic noise. I mean, you can't have a conversation at Yellow Mud anymore if you're outside. And, I mean, people who are in town, who live in town are talking, like I've had people say, this is the noisiest place I've ever lived. I mean, I'm just telling you what people say to me, you know. And then I've also had a couple that doesn't live far from us who actually move because of the traffic noise right on the street. So we have noise, and, you know, it's more cars. Well, for example, we actually went into our house in 2009, and there was only 3,000 people in Weaverville. Now you're closer to 6,000 people in Weaverville, and everybody uses Main Street and Hamburg Mountain, so it is a lot more traffic, a lot more noise. And you're exactly right. The more people that come, the more cars that come.
I'd be
And young guys with their trucks.
Oh, the big trucks, for sure.
Unnecessary. I mean, there are cars on Main Street that have these big, whatever, that just make all this noise. It's just-
Unnecessary noise.
It's not just Main Street. Beacon Road,
Graphics might also be, we have a lot of it on Beacon Street Road.
Well, I mean, even, I know Selena's been with us, what, 8 years? So right before Selena, the current town manager lived across the street from me. And one of the things that he used to say is that when people turn the corner at the red light, they stomp the gas. And so from the red light until you go down Hamburg Mountain, that's what you hear. You know, it's you know, hundreds of people a day going as fast as they can.
Well, and there, a lot of towns, out here is we don't have the luxury of space, you know, so there aren't a lot of options for where roads go, or you can't expand your road network any. So this is having it more walkable and accessible is what we can do. I'll keep trying to figure out how to say, do we want to say sidewalks and pedestrian network? Like, how do we want to?
I would also be interested to hear from emergency services what effect or challenges that the increase in traffic has had and response times. What do we see? What do we need to know from police and fire? Particular opinions.
During the day, it certainly is, yes. There is no good way to get from one side of town to the other, except through Main Street, which is congested with no real place for people to pull out of the way.
You can ask about a parallel road to Main Street or bypass, but there's not. You have it, it shows the truth to you too.
yes, sir, same with us. I mean, and, you know, PD has a unique advantage for officers already out on patrol, where ours is mostly stationary, responding for the stations. Are trying to get those different areas, especially with the annexation and different things, till we put resources out in those areas. It's a challenge fighting the traffic, especially at peak times at different times throughout the day, with Main Street being as narrowed as it is, navigating that traffic. You know, no matter how much noise you create, getting through it, the vehicles have nowhere to pull out of your way. It's delaying that response time.
And I would venture to guess that the majority of your responses require you to go down Main Street.
And I would venture to further guess that if we did put in a traffic calming measure, it probably would actually increase your response time even more.
So I know parking is always an issue here in town. What if we only had parking on one side of Main Street?
That would be nice. That would help expand the downtown businesses and businesses too.
Well, but if you're sitting out there eating, you need to go down through there, you just get killed, you know, so. Then you respond immediately, right there.
That's right, quicker response time.
has been some conversation about small, I wouldn't even call them pocket parks, but areas, similar to what's in front of Wilbrad, where you have some plantings and that type of thing. So we've got to remember that there's a delicate balance here that we're striking. If we build more of those, which are very nice, we're also potentially negatively impacting our response times and also more traffic problems, potentially. So, a balance there that we have to try to.
Sometimes it's so bad and you don't even know why. You know, is it because they're building the bridge on 26? Is it because it's school traffic and everybody picks up their kids? But I mean, you can look at your watch and it's not a time that you expected it to happen. It can be 2:15 and traffic is lined up all on Main Street, all the way down to Weaver Boulevard, and not know why.
You know, I think
For
if
someone
we
who
did,
lives on the other side, you know, elementary school as well, sometimes they gotta pull into the other lane. I done it. You know? Otherwise I'm not getting home. That
That's
is
terrible,
very
no.
true. I can speak to that. Yep. I am on Whitetail, which is just across from the elementary school. When my kids were at the elementary school, I would walk them to school, and the principal, who will go nameless, would actually discourage me and say, "We need you to drop them off here at the drop-off line." And I'm walking in from the side with my two children. He just holding their hand, and she did not like that.
Why?
That person is at a different school now, but yeah, and they want you in the car line because they don't want students walking behind the people who are monitoring them. And so yes, it's actively discouraged that we actually walk our children to school.
Is there a way to change that?
Would it be?
a discussion with the school board.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe when we're talking about relationships, maybe we need to invite our school board members, in fact, the chairman who lives in town, and she needs to be in those discussions as well.
That's what I was just thinking. The school board, we should have a joint something with them. Because for one thing, I wonder if it's even against the law, but if there was a drop-off point and a school bus that would fill up with 60 students and the parents dropped off at like one of those park and rides, because this is crazy, not being able to get out of your driveway. I mean, I accidentally turned that way one day and went, oh my God.
Especially when we have empty school buses.
Oh, we're paying gas and drivers with empty buses half the time. And we don't, but we as citizens do.
I think the idea of the Board of Education and folks in part of the education is important because our experience with the public schools is it's different based on the principal. Sometimes they like stuff, other times, you complain about the car stuff, and some of them is fun.
Well, and there's programs right now that I'm learning about through the NPO that are called Safe Streets for All and Safe Pathways to Walk to School. And then here I'm hearing that in this town, we don't want people to walk to school. And my husband never rode a bus in his life because he grew up on Church Street.
And it's really contradictory if we're trying to build a walkable town and telling people don't walk. I mean, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's big. We need to collaborate with
Yes,
the
we do.
Board of Education.
I'm
Or at least
taking
the
mental
local
notes.
Principals anyway.
Yeah.
But unless we talk this out, we don't know these things. Yes, this is great. Thank you, Summer. and thank you, Peter.
I hadn't realized. I know Buncombe County sends out emails to parents regularly encouraging us not to use the bus. They don't have drivers.
Right.
So they encourage parents to drive their kids unless they can't, and that's the buses are for. But I didn't realize about the no walking. That's going back to infrastructure real quick. Is there anything else? And so I have parking on infrastructure, but it's also under the business category. So I'm not sure which category you'd like to keep it in. It may not matter at this point. We can just add it to a list to vote on, and then we can parse that out later. But I do have it here, so we may not need it on the business side is when we get to it. Was there anything else infrastructure-wise? We've covered everything on the list that I had, but
I feel like some roundabouts like Weaver Boulevard, Main Street could be really beneficial in terms of, but that's new to you.
Unfortunately, I talked to them about it, and I brought them out to look at it, and they explained to me that a roundabout, because it's an NCDOT road, a roundabout has to be big enough for a 53-foot tractor-trailer truck to go through it. And none of our spots are big enough for that to happen. The only thing that might be big enough would be down at Lake Louise. But the one out here at Weaver Boulevard where the dentist and chiropractor are, you'd have to take away. We don't, it's just not big enough.
There's not solutions there.
See how chewed up, you can see how chewed up those telephone poles are at the corner because the trucks always clip them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's basically a new one from within a year, and it's already been hit again.
we've already started on our recreation list. So we have parks, pocket parks, folks just mentioned, and then we also have the nature park, folks I mentioned earlier. The trails, greenways. What do we call it? The trails at the watershed, and what are you all calling those things? Other code. Anything other recreation? You can check pickleball off your
Yeah,
list.
pickleball, Lake Louise, the new playground. I think you've done a tremendous job with recreation in this town.
You really
I think
have.
there's a lot of opportunities.
You really have.
I'll throw one more thing that I've got sort of an idea about moving forward. Now, it's probably not even really moving for business, but Green Street itself and its trout stream designation, I would like to talk to some folks at WRC about WRC Wildlife Resources Commission, about the designation and maybe making it a delayed harvest stream, which could really help affect the economy here in the town. Curtis Wright would be, I would imagine, very excited about something like that. I think it could bring a lot Again,
Like stocking the
it's
creek?
a hatchery supported right now, which is just stock trout. Okay, and it's year round except in the month of March. It'll be closed in March while they stock it. But it's a put and take stream. Put and take is going to fish in, fish may take it out, fish will farm, whatever you want. Delayed harvest would actually make it a little more stringent. And catch and release from October to June, and then you can harvest the fish from June to October. But while it's October to June, it would be it's catch and release only, single bar artificial lure only, sea club, sorry. And there's some wonderful regulations. Buncombe County does not have a delayed harvest stream. Shelton, Laurel, and Madison County would be the closest one. Henderson has North Mills River. It's a really successful program. Buncombe County doesn't have one. It could be Reeves Creek.
So basically, you're allowing time for the fish to develop.
That's right. It's more environmentally friendly. You're going to have, and I just think that it would be another recreational opportunity. And we have a fly shop on Main Street. The fishermen are going to come. They're going to shop at Curtis Wright, and they're going to fish in the Main Street. So anyway, that's just something I was thinking about.
Is there a statistic on the spirit system?
I'm sure there is. I don't know. But in a former life, I was a fly fisherman.
Okay.
Worked for Hunter Banks here in Asheville, and I was also I used to be a guide out in Montana. I went to law school in Montana, and I've been a catch and release fisherman.
I think we haven't mentioned is nature park. Actual upgrades from water management point, educational, and right now a lot of people definitely walk through it, hang out. I would further expect.
Section one right here behind the business.
So we had somebody come and talk to us about a plan maybe for the stormwater. Is there going to be any follow-up on that? I think they said they got some ideas from us, and they come back with more information, about the stormwater and that area with education, plaques, and frogs.
Talking about the nature park?
Yeah. The part kind of behind the police department where that
Mhm.
thing is.
Studying, engineering, designing, and it was a landscape architect working with a stormwater expert. And so they did identify our two ponds back in the nature park that serve as stormwater control measures. And they did, the report that y'all heard, did, So they presented some really interesting ideas about how to make, improve the functionality of those stormwater control measures, but also increasing the beautification, the educational opportunities. And I think at this point, I'm going to go out on a limb and say staff is looking to town council to say, is this something that you're really interested in? And then we can put it on a to-do list. But there's a lot of interest in other things too, so we want to make sure that staff is doing what you want. I think it's the plan itself on that part can largely be done with town staff, but there are certainly materials, and I would expect that would be almost a phased approach, unless you really wanted it all done at one point.
Is that a plan that can be largely done with grants?
They are actually looking to see if there is some grant money available for it. It's probably not a big enough project to really put forward for like a PARDIF grant. I don't think that it's probably a good fit for that. But they are, Landeskog, Mary Roderick, who you have heard speak. She's looking into some grant funding options.
and certainly if there are some out there, we can pursue them. But I think overall, staff is really looking to see whether town council kind of nods your head and says, yes, we would like these improvements to be implemented over some period of time.
That was before the election, so when I attended that session where she spoke, and it was a really, really good presentation. The slide deck she had was really
She's
giving you
exceptional.
a good idea about what this could look like.
Yeah.
And I certainly think it would be worthwhile to push forward on that.
Maybe that's something we could look at and discuss in a workshop sometime.
Absolutely.
Is this the suggestion that goes on an agenda?
No, but I would encourage y'all, if you've got these kind of items that you want to be discussed at workshops, you should at least advise me. Because a lot of times we get to the meeting and say, what are we going to talk about this month? So shoot me ideas if you want certain presentations or certain discussions to happen at workshops, let me know.
And y'all are getting ready to go into budget, and I think that, I'm sorry, guys, steal your comment there.
We will be discussing this and other projects. So we will expect that you will give us your thoughts about prioritization of projects. As I've said before, when we're looking at our staff and man-hours, that kind of thing, we've always got to have your input as to how we prioritize these projects, because it's very easy with all the things that we have gotten done, for instance, recreation. Public Works has done the majority of that. And it's time-consuming. So we have to know how you wish to prioritize these projects before we can really move forward. So that is on the list. Catherine, I just made a mistake of going into, I went down the rabbit hole because I've always wanted to know too. Yeah. Survival rate there's so many, like there's a ton of reports, right? It depends on your bait, it depends on what kind of fish it is, that kind of thing, but only around 16% die.
Good.
So that's a good, yeah. So, but again,
Yeah.
it depends on what kind of fish it is and
See,
where
now I
you're
won't sit here and
fishing.
think about it for the next 2 hours.
And, yeah.
Some people use marvelous hooks now, depending on what they're doing, so that probably helps.
I did not know. Fish had slime. Okay. I guess that makes sense. The, anything, it sounds like recreation-wise, do you want to keep the nature park combined with other parks, or do you want to pull that out as its own? Or is that more of an action item later on? As council decides budget areas, that's,
I think it goes on the list because it is passive recreation.
okay.
For we have
Oh, okay. It kind of straddles a lot with the stormwater as an infrastructure piece, and, okay.
So I think we put it on the list, and then we also have it as an
Okay. Okay. Anything else for recreation? That's a lot, but, the parks, active Weaverville plan, greenways, the trails, and then the creek itself.
Are there properties we might identify?
You mean for, land acquisition?
It might be a thing to work with developers for expansion of the Greenway, because we already have one who's raised his hand and said, we want to play with that. So,
That's great.
yeah.
Actually, that's, Quarry Road, that's the trail system, so it's.
The one that ties into what he's talking about.
It is what you're talking about. So actually,
Here.
it's already on there
Okay.
as the Quarry Road trail system. Backs up to.
Also seems like elements of so some larger naturalized nice for the development, but also takes not for a lot.
And that might be a easement situation. Anything else for this one? All right, now we have relationships. All right, we're getting closer. Making it through the list. So we have schools, which we captured earlier. That's a great addition. We have the towns, which you're already working with on your water resources. County. League. Somebody mentioned the EDC too, the Economic Development Coalition. Is that another to?
To the extent, I think, to the extent that we can. Unfortunately, we really don't have a whole lot of industrial property in town, but to the extent that we can, we've maintained a relationship. Patrick talks to him, and I do as well. Clark Duncan, and I served on a project committee. Unfortunately, none of the projects were.
Yes, yes. Yes, you did. Mhm. I know you have some brownfield properties that have, they have tenants. um, Some of them do. Yeah, I drove by that the other day. You do have some great facilities. It's whether the timing works a lot of the time too. Any other relationship folks you want to reach out to or pursue?
think, we had some real success by being actively engaged with our legislature this past year. So maintaining or improving those relationships could benefit us in the future. They need to know who we are.
Any others? Right, and I think we're at business. We have a lot of overlap with this one with some of the others. So the downtown area, we've touched on a little with traffic and parking. I'll put downtown up. Relates into your economic development coalition too, with relationships. What else do we want listed on this one?
Well, I think one thing about downtown, one thing I know our economic development committee has been concerned with is how do we help and enhance locally owned businesses. We're very lucky that all of our downtown now is all locally owned businesses. And the old Arvado factory, Sonopress factory, is now also filled up with a lot. They've subdivided it, and almost all those businesses are local owned businesses. That's a good thing for our local economy. What can we do to enhance local entrepreneurs?
I wonder if one of the very first things that we need to do is or county council needs to do is reestablish goals for the committee. In other words, set out what from this process, what you want that committee to be.
I think that would help. They would appreciate that too.
I'm sure.
What is the name of that committee? WEDAC?
WEDAC. It's always good to know
WEDAC.
what your goals are.
Okay. Got it. As long as you know, then we are good to go. Okay.
That was established goals.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. We also had events and promotion. I think of your downtown area is what folks are referring to, but is that, do you want me to add it to the list? Events and promotion of
I
the
think,
downtown?
for instance, we have an event that every summer, Music on Main, where we close down downtown. And then there's the Art and Autumn, which is a big art festival in the fall. Probably some others on this. I suspect that's what people will refer to.
Well, and see, the thing about that is that's what the Weaverville Business Association, that's us partnering with them.
Mhm.
They're the ones who put on Music on Main.
So your role might be just
I mean,
support.
we put
or-
on a big, huge 4th of July, Selena, and we do the summer music in the park, and we do things at the community center, but the Music on Main, the Art in Autumn, and the Candlelight Stroll are specifically funded and put on by the Business Association. And so one of the things that I recently talked to Selena about, and she may have already worked on it, but they have a really good website, visitweaverville.com. And so I said to Selena, I said, why don't we have them put a link so that when somebody is visiting weaverville.com, they can click on Weaverville, the town government website too, because a lot of people that go through that may want to know things about us or things that we can tell them.
And vice versa.
And vice
We should
versa.
link to each other, yes.
And one of the things that I hear a lot, and I'm even hearing it today too, is is who do we identify as? Who is Weaverville? And, I mean, because different towns have different things that they tout, and that's kind of what brings people in. And the more I listen to us today, the more I think about recreation and just, you know, there's nature. No, we don't have ski resorts, but you can get to one from here. But you can fish from here. You can walk the trails. You can go to the parkway. You can go down the river. Woodfin is going to be getting whitewater rafting, blue water rafting, or whatever thing in the near 10-year future. But finding something, if we want to draw people to Main Street, and we have local businesses, and they do things like Curtis Wright and the Eagle Falcon thing, and even the great Art and Autumn thing that brings people in. Trying to zone in on and help identify a way to promote Weaverville as a destination / or even all of us who live here, not just a destination for tourists, but the things that we enjoy most goes back to the very first question that she asked. You know, the walkability, the community, how we identify with it.
Museum just recently had an event with Ruth Roberts, and they put out, 5 rows of chairs, and then they added 3 more rows of chairs, and there were people standing. I mean, the room, big room there was totally, and they are looking at doing things like that.
Those must support your business. As people are coming in for those, they're having lunch or whatever, spending some
And
money.
this one in particular was an evening event, and so it was maybe more for residents, but it's still a cultural, educational, and fun thing that we do in town.
It's a great thing for the community.
For the community, for the museum.
Right.
And the community center is just, we've already said, is such a great building.
A few thoughts that I had that I jotted down prior to this for town council's decisions on social districts downtown. How do those fit in? Do we continue to go with a by event only, special event only, or do we make it a more regular social district like some other jurisdictions have? Another one is, and all of this really wraps into partnering with the WPA, potential for closure of Florida Avenue for permanent or for events. So there's been lots of conversations over the years about that as well. And town council definitely needs to be the leaders in those decisions.
No, Brevard just adopted a social district.
I have a name from Silva that knows all about their social district down there, and I've reached out by email. I haven't heard anything back, but one of the attendees at this class we just took was from Silva, and we talked offline about that. So.
I wonder if it might be beneficial as one of our workshops to have a kind of a renewal of the conversation that you all had a couple of years ago, where Jennifer took you through the social districts and what it means, and actually Chief Davis participated in that as well. So I wonder if we need to add that to the list for workshops to,
I think that'd be a good idea because we've kicked this can around for a couple of years and never really reached a conclusion. But as more and more towns develop them, I think at least we have a lot of experience other people have had we can use to figure out what we want to do.
It'd be a good idea, because I think people need to understand it's not our responsibility. The businesses have to be the ones that are responsible for the social district. And we're not taking on responsibility, but we can take the power away.
yeah. And I think it's really important that we hear truly from, from our law enforcement to tell us, what really happens at Music on Main and those kinds of events. For instance, we've got a request from WPA to extend hours this year for sale of alcohol. And so we, at the staff level, we've got to determine how we make that work with some of the problems that we've had in this last year, for instance. And I think Summer, if you want to speak to that. There's give and take on allowing.
So last year's Music on Main was very successful in the crowd that it attracted, but it also was a prime example of over-serving of alcohol and the complaints that we had afterwards of the severely impaired people that were present, the amount of time that they had to drink, and the change of the vibe where they thought they were coming to a family event. And that's not necessarily how it ended up feeling at the end. So the mission there that we assigned for Music on Main in particular was to ask them what vibe they were going for. So I think reflecting on what your question was what do you want to be? What does Weaverville want to be the destination for? That might be something that needs to be paired with your events, because if we start drinking earlier, which is the proposal, does that change the family atmosphere that we expect would be here at 3 in the afternoon? And it's a fine line for the police department to walk, somewhat of a razor's edge, because we want to be supportive of the events that bring people to town, but we're still responsible for the enforcement of laws. And then we get a little pushback with, we brought everybody here and now you're ticketing them or having law enforcement encounters, which could be perceived as dissuasion. So I think just getting together something as simple as what we want these events to be, who you want to draw, and what your overarching mission is as the town might help with some of the extracurricular events.
So I'm going to make an assumption that the longer the hours of drinking opportunity there is, the greater problems you're going to have.
Yes, sir. And of course, your businesses downtown really appreciate the ability to sell alcohol. You have a lot of breweries down here, and it puts them front and center. It invites some of the other breweries to come, and it showcases what Asheville and the surrounding areas are getting known for with the Brew City type vibe. However, yes, we had everything from intoxicated, but we learned there were not enough bathrooms, and the more alcohol you sell, the more bathrooms you need, and then they were making errors in judgment on where they should use the bathroom. I think
That was a very polite one.
yes.
Yeah.
Public Works spent 2 days fishing trash out of your fountain in front of Town Hall that was filled with debris and cluttered and needed additional maintenance because it was on a party central. The list goes on. You get how there can be a tipping point there.
All right, so that sounds like that will involve more discussion on the social district. It feels like we're good on this one. Anything else for business? I think the other things are captured on other sheets. All right, last one. It's communication. I already have one up here for shared messaging, and links with web links between WBA and the town. Where are some other areas? I know we had talked about the school, having more communications with the school for the active Weaverville plan. What others?
A recent conversation I had with one of my neighbors about messaging, about communication, is how can the town best communicate to everybody here? Not everybody's on Facebook. Some of our older residents really aren't very active online. I know mailing something to their house with a postage stamp on it is not a good solution either. And I don't have an answer. I'm starting to ask people, how would you like to be communicated with by the town? And have some folks kind of thinking and talking about some of those things. But online, emails, all of that is a really good way to get message out, except to a group of people who aren't active in that and want to keep up.
And as you hear more from those folks that are not technologically involved, please let us know. Because we can, when I came along, the town was still doing a printed version of the newsletter, and it was expensive.
Yeah,
to do
that's
that.
not particularly practical anymore.
It's not real practical. Right? But if there are other things that we might do to replace that, people have ideas, it's always helpful. We've had one of our new Citizens Academy attendees gave me, she and I have been in communication over the last few weeks about things to improve communications. And in fact, Tamara and I have actually been working on putting those in place. For one thing, you probably noticed in your email boxes a copy of the agenda, a screenshot, and then a link directly to the agenda. That was her idea. I'd never thought about, kind of pushing that a little further with people. So that was her idea to do that. So Tamara made it happen. And so things like that, anything like that, I assume wrongly that people, if they want to be involved, they'll go look for the agenda. That's what I would do. But I am not everyone, and I've got to remember that always. So, that was a point that she made to us, and Tamara, it was easy for Tamara just to go into our system and push those out. So we've done that for today's meeting on Monday night. So real simple things like that we can do, we may not be thinking of because we're hyper-focused on one area. We may not be thinking of other things. So staff is open to these ideas.
Well, and getting more people aware of the eFocus newsletter. I don't know what the subscription is to that, but
Tamara, do you know?
So we have this great newsletter, and then the new Code Red thing, and I'll bet participation on that is even worse. Yes. So these
The
are
good
two
thing
great
about-
tools, but we have to somehow get people to sign up, because like you said, people aren't necessarily going to go looking for
let
it.
them know more, let them know how
Maybe
to
it's
sign up.
something we could have real estate agents have as part of their portfolio to include that information in what they give to their clients.
Does the water bill still go out by mail?
We
Okay, but since it's a third party, is there a way, just a one-time blurb or whatever, or maybe an every-time blurb, to put a sentence on there that says, if you would like to know more about Weaverville, sign up for the eFocus? Yeah, and put it in a different color, red or something. I mean, I know sometimes colors cost money, because I've bought printing. But Okay.
One other thing we're doing, that Tamara's got lots of projects, and a lot of them are centered around communications. One other thing that we're doing is, haven't just now noticed, but we know that we still have a good number of people who still come in to pay their bill here. They don't go online, and they don't have automatic draft of their bills, so they come into the building. And so we're going to, and I believe this may have been Scotty's initial idea, is we're going to put a monitor similar to these in the lobby, and have regular information circulated across that screen. So that you'll see that real soon. That's pretty easy to make happen. So that is one thing that we're going to do. So we're working on communications. It just, we can't make it overnight.
So one of the things, particularly the older generation, so much publicity, recently scams and so forth. A lot of people don't rest on it. Put on there is information.
Rightly so.
Is it easy, would it be possible to sign up for the newsletter and/or Code Red just by scanning a QR code? It's on
We
there?
have it on there.
Oh, you're on the ball.
It's, we have that. The good thing about, so with Code Red, it's a little different. If we do have a true emergency, we have the national database information that we will pull from. If there's a true emergency that happens in town, it will pull 911 information.
Oh, so we could communicate to you even if you didn't opt in?
Correct, for a true emergency.
Right.
But we can't use that for,
For community information.
right. So that's the plus side of
Does that
things. We
go
may not
to-
have all the information we would like to have. So, for instance, in Code Red, it asks for, if you want to include your email, your work email, your address, your partner's email, phone numbers. I mean, there's an abundance of information that you can put in there, and you choose how much of that you want to put in there for Code Red.
So that goes to, it can go to your phone, email, whatever you
We
put
can
in there.
almost just walk up to your door and knock on it. And, I mean, they really do.
So would a scrolling screen at the community center be a secondary?
We already have one of those there.
Down there?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm gonna walk too fast through.
It's in the front lobby. It's as you walk in the street. So we do the same thing.
That's great. So one of the things Michelle and I talked about was when the last election, we did some meet and greets, and it was really fun because you know, not only were we introducing people who were running for office, but we were meeting people from the community who cared enough to come out and want to have a cup of coffee and some cookies, and so we talked about, you know, if we could do some kind of quarterly thing. I know we all can't get together at the same time, but if you did something like coffee with the mayor and a council person, or tea in the evening.
The kind of things that Terry Wells and Amanda Edwards had
Yeah,
put
like
together
the
in the past.
like the Terry Wells and Amanda
Because
Edwards thing.
Terry is very, very active in doing that right now. I mean, every week she's somewhere doing something.
She's running,
That too,
but she's always active.
but she's always active.
She does the farmers market and
One of my friends in Black Mountain, who's on council here, every now and then she'll post on her Facebook page and she'll say, I'm going to be at such and such coffee shop on Saturday from 9 to 12 if you want to come by and talk to mine. And that's just her. I mean, it's just, and some days she's busy and some days she sits all by herself, but she's there anyway. they want to tell us? If we'll just ask. Well, in the listening sessions that we had recently on the short-term rentals were very informal, and I think it's more conducive to getting people to talk. I've talked to people who have things they want to say, but they don't want to stand up at a podium with a microphone. It's just, but the casualness and the informality of the listening sessions we did, I think, was pretty successful.
And Kayla had mentioned the short-term rental discussions she felt went really well. So it's,
She did a great job.
Did she?
That's
That's good. Thank you. Glad to hear that. I think, is there anything else for communications? Kind of it's woven, yeah, it's woven into a lot of these other areas as well. So, and I think that wraps up our identifying all the priorities. So I have a question for you. I think the sandwiches are here for lunch. Would you like to take a break and get lunch and look at these, or would you like to jump right into voting for these and then get sandwiches? So vote first or vote after lunch? Voting now? Okay. So what we'll do is we're just going to use the green stickers because I think those are the only ones that work. And
So, change of plans.
Change of plans.
We're bringing food here,
oh,
and there's enough for the huge audience that we have.
Sorry, my
so
back.
we're gonna- So in order to make that easier for everyone. we're
Okay.
gonna bring the food here.
vote and eat. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you. That's always interrupt for food. So you are going to pick your top, what would you like to pick? Your top 5? Your top 10? Selena, do you have a, all right. 5 it is? 5 it is. Only 5. I am very trusting with all the dots. Okay. So you're using these over here now. Yes. Your top 5 across the board. Needed. Top 5 over here.
boxes at the lots, the boxes at the two churches, two hands, what day you're there. Price them up as well as that, make sure you get the package. We are recessed for lunch. Recessed for lunch.
Wants to fish, and he's wanting to get into fly fishing. I'm like, here goes the
All the money.
cash.
The money is gone.
That's right.
Well, you know, it's still better than golf.
Well, he started that. He started that, so
I got into golf recently too, and, you know, green speeds.
oh yeah.
And then here's the other thing. People all get into fly fishing, and then Doug can attest to this.
And they stop.
And then, no, they say, I'm gonna save some money by tying my own flies.
Oh,
No way.
wow.
That does not save you a dime.
I
It's just
would think
another
that would make it
expense.
more
It
expensive.
is. Now you've got a workshop full of feathers.
Yeah.
Chicken feathers.
Yeah.
As far as the eye can see.
Right?
And here you were trying to, oh, I'll just, instead of buying these things for $3 a pop, I'll just buy them myself.
Uh-huh.
But it is a lot of fun.
Peter, you said you tied your own flies? I do too.
I just said to Selena, everybody says, I'm tired of paying $3 a fly, I'm gonna go tie my own. And then we end up spending $500 on chicken feathers, you know?
Well,
And you know what it now costs?
it extends the achievement because
No.
you catch a fish on something you tie, so
Creative. But you know what a Mets net runs now, like a number one or a Hoffman, what they're costing now?
I know the last time I bought one, it was close to $100.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, it's about $100. I mean, for a chicken,
special bread?
I have, and they raise them in those with the misters to get make the pack waterproof. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I guess the positive with Cooper is that he doesn't mind working. So he's working at Eagles. He loves making the extra money. So it's not as much of a burden on him now that he's, yes. He's still making good grades and working, so I'm okay. As long as he's keeping grades in good shape, then we're good.
We're good.
Yeah, it's fine.
Ingalls.
Ingles is actually, you could stick, I'm not saying he should,
Mm-hmm.
but property.
Steve did well.
Steve, I mean, his bonuses started before they were looked.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, he grumbles but sometimes because he has to deal with, you know.
Got my first real work. Minimum wage, which at the time was $3.35 an hour. You know, got a job in sterile storage at the hospital. Packing case parts and circuits. In other words, I was just in like this warehousing. They send a sheet. Said, okay, we're going to do cholecystic. And I go down. Yeah, and I go down there, but it had to be sterile, so I had all the scrubs on and everything, and I put it into all these supplies into a metal cart. Then I'd have to wipe down the metal cart, and I'd wheel it across to the operating rooms, and I'd park it outside the operating room. And I was 15 years old. I mean, you're right. If you screwed up, where's the scalpel?
Right?
This guy's, we got 10 seconds.
But you didn't put the scalpel in it, you put this blue thing that already been sterilized in there, right?
It was wrapped in blue paper, yes.
Yeah, so you weren't responsible for picking the tools that were inside.
As long as I picked the package,
Right, you picked the package correct. Right.
yeah, I gotta pick the
So, where I used to work at Cardinal Health, we made the sterilization wrap. And then sold it to the hospital. And then somebody else puts all that stuff in their package. They wrap it.
Yeah, they put it in that big autoclave.
Oh, yes,
The autoclave.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I remember that autoclave. Mission Hospital. Not back. Mission Hospital. It's not part anymore. Oh, I'm aware.
You have a nice chat with Caroline. It's better. Um, she still complains of some stiffness, but she's not in any pain. So they, yeah, we took her to the hospital, and they, it's technically it's surgery, but it's basically they some X-ray guided needle, and they go in where the vertebra is cracked, depending on how badly it is cracked. If it's like where they have to realign it, they'll realign it. Because it's for to cement into a needle, and it like cures almost immediately. Yeah. So some like super toxic or something. I don't know. But hers was just
You know,
crack.
they lost this,
So, I mean, it took longer to wait for him to come to get her. And it was, they didn't got her at 7 o'clock. Later. We were ready to go.
I hate needles. Yeah, I've got plenty of it. You don't feel it so much.
Feels like you're crazy.
Did alarms go off?
But then when you cough with this, that's maybe 10 minutes when they get. Your eyeballs float.
Yeah.
So I want to get home.
Great.
Don't you have two daughters? Or yep. I thought so. Where is so I've met the one who's married to the realtor. Where's the other one?
He lives here. Yeah. You went off Marshall Highway. First exit on the left. Goes into subdivision. Headed toward Marshall.
The first one that's where that used to be Town and Country Realtor.
Yeah.
Okay. Does she live in the first one, the second one, or the third subdivision?
First one on the left.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Rides in the hills or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I think third house on the left. So both of them live with Mr. About 5 minutes.
That's good. Now, is she the one that came with you to Alan Shepherd's party, or is the one that came to the party the wife of the real? Oh, because I did meet her. Okay.
Sit outside or outside with a glass of wine. Out.
Good. Yeah.
Go for a walk.
Is everyone okay to pick up where we left off? We don't have much to get through, so we're getting close. Oh, I missed it.
Okay, it is noon and we're back in session.
All right. So I missed this one. This is on the floor, so that changed our numbering a little bit. But we have lots of ties. So this is this staffing is number one, specific to long-range planning. Is there any other staffing, or is the long-range planning really what folks are honing in on and see a need for? This is it?
If I can just add, that this is a really important area for us to be continuing to think about as these developments build out. Because we will have demands for services that are gonna greatly increase with the build outs and then occupants moving in.
How many units does that new development have? Was it 120? Yes. I was off a little bit.
That's just one of them.
That's just one. Okay. Okay.
576.
That's a lot. Okay. All right. So this long-range staffing was the lead. We have a tie for 3, I think. All had 4 dots. Land use discussion and zoning, community events, and then communication strategies with the public. Okay. Is that enough information for the community events? Feel like we can hone in on that in further follow-up meetings or workshops? Okay.
Let me ask one question. Is there an interest from council to have more town-sponsored events? Is that at all part of this conversation? Or are you happy with the numbers that we have for the number of events? We just need to promote them.
We've got a lot of events already.
I think people are pretty pleased with it. It's a hobby. It's just maybe some details like when and where can we go, how can we change location? Work this item should have.
We just ask folks when we talk to our neighbors and such, but that's what you like to see in town, not having one. I think
I agree that they're happy with what we have, but I also think most of the people think that the things that are put on by the Weaverville Business Association are community events from the town. And so they expect them to be family-oriented and safe and not drugs and alcohol and stuff. I think the Weaverville Business Association is representing us also, and just like we represent them some.
And the thing is, even when it's a business associated sponsored event, it still involves the police, it still involves the fire. It's the same, for us, it's still the same commitment.
Yeah, I don't think most people know the difference, whether it's a Christmas parade, the WBA
Right.
or town, they don't know, they just know they want to go.
Yeah, I've got the question of after the candlelight stroll, why didn't you just close the street? You know,
Yeah.
First off, we're not involved. Second, DOT, you know.
But it would be nice
that's
if we could just maybe have the parade and the candlelight stroll on the same day, close the road for one day.
Well, you will hear Monday night that we are working with them usually have the stroll on the same day. Closing the streets. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not possible. It's just,
All right. On the next one down, the third place, we have the school drop-off, walkable discussion to build relationships with the schools, and pedestrian network. To continue those. Any additional comments on?
A couple things. I just mentioned in the summer that I don't think anyone was aware that this security kids walking to school is an issue, and it scored pretty high. So now we're having discussions with principals. Now all hate us. Welcome to the new job, Summer. But also, the point is that so especially those that are so close to the high school.
Same. It feels like that the active Weaverville pedestrian and trails, the schools, I mean, a lot of those are variations on that same discussion. Right? It's more connectivity, more pedestrian friendly. Feels like that's a group of things. So you have your top 5 priorities, which expanded to your top, well, we did get to kind of 8 or 9 priorities because we have some ties. Is there anything not on this list that you would like to see reflected in the discussion today? No?
Our facilities.
Anything else? I have one more poll. Oh, it's back. We're back. So, yep, slido.com. And the number 2723. Oh,
quizzes, conferences, polls.
5 polls. Oh, there should be. does success look like to you all, for Weaverville? No, I want to move to Weaverville. Everybody wants to move to Weaverville. These are wonderful. So, financial stability, adequate maintained facilities, fully staffed, FRP, citizen-friendly town, healthy, vibrant community, multiple collaboration, robust economy, smart growth, collaboration, affordable housing, diverse, vibrant, someone who doesn't live here feels like this is who you are already, so it's a lot of keeping a lot of your characteristics. Well, thank you all very much. This was, I enjoyed going through this with you. If you have any questions, Selena and Mayor know how to reach me, but is there anything else you wanted to add to today's discussion?
It's not done, is it?
Oh, no.
Don't you want, okay.
No, what we,
No.
no, the next step is that Selena and I will get together and we'll try and pull all this information together and try and identify what are the half a dozen or so strategic goals. And then we have to define, and then we'll have to fill in what are the tactics we use to accomplish those goals. And then we'll put it to paper, bring it back to you guys and have you all tweak it and say, yeah, that's what we meant, that's not what we meant, add this. So I'm sure that will take us weeks.
May even want to have public input on it.
Yeah, all right. So maybe a good workshop discussion item. So I'm sure it'll take us a few weeks to put this together, but then we'll bring it back to you, and I think probably some public input and probably so we'll try and we see where it's nice that we see where there's a lot of agreement. There's certain issues, certain areas have a lot of agreement. Those are the areas we should work on. Those are the things we'll prioritize because we know that we have a lot of people agreeing on those issues.
This is the first step to gather where you see the priority.
don't think so. Is there any burning issue people have that we didn't discuss today? If not, we're actually getting done early. That's pretty amazing. In time for the basketball game. Well, thanks for everyone. Thanks for your input, and thanks for your smarts. We appreciate it. We'll be back to you as soon as we can.